Trauma. It's something that's commonly mentioned in day-to-day life. People just seem to think it means going through something damaging. Although that's an aspect of it, real trauma has much larger lasting impacts. Trauma is defined by the APA Dictionary of Psychology as, quote, any disturbing experience that results in significant fear, helplessness, dissociation, confusion, or other disruptive feelings intense enough to have a long-lasting negative effect on a person's attitudes, behavior, and other aspects of functioning. Both in real life and in anime, we see different kinds of trauma. Bullying, disasters, physical abuse, and much more. Yuji Itadori from Jujutsu Kaisen experienced what can be best described as traumatic grief and symptoms of PTSD after the Shibuya Incident. Today I'll be walking through Yuji's experience in the Shibuya Incident, the real-life psychological parallels to explain what he's going through, and the long-term impacts that this kind of trauma has on people. Yuji first arrives in Shibuya with Nanami, and they fight through a ton of transfigured humans. This is where the start of Yuji's guilt shows up, although both the viewer and Yuji knows that he must kill them to save his life and the lives of others. This situation is very similar to cognitive dissonance, in which a person acts in an opposing way to their moral values and feelings. Yuji promised his dying grandfather that he'd use his strength to help others and keep them safe. In order to stay alive, though, he has to contradict his personal mission to keep people safe and help them. Yuji has to kill innocent people, starting out his journey of trauma with a bang. After fighting many cursed spirits and transfigured humans, though, Yuji finally runs into his first real opponent, Choso, a cursed womb death painting with the cursed technique of blood manipulation. The fight starts out strong with Choso fighting to avenge his two brothers, and Yuji fighting for his life and trying to end the whole ordeal as fast as possible. This goes on until Yuji is down and Choso gets a vision of Yuji as one of his brothers. This breaks Choso, as he realizes that he nearly killed his own brother. Although there isn't a specific psychological framework for this exact situation, it can be understood why this had a troubling effect on both Yuji and Choso. The largest portion of Yuji's trauma and guilt comes in the next chapter of the incident, when Jogo feeds Yuji 10 more of Sukuna's fingers, and Yuji gets taken over by Sukuna. Sukuna engages in a battle with Jogo that causes catastrophic amounts of destruction, killing thousands of people within minutes. When Yuji awakes and realizes what has happened, he's entirely bereft. He thinks back to when he said that he'd make himself useful to the Jujutsu Society, find the rest of Sukuna's fingers, and save people. He could have just agreed to be killed then and there, but he chose to live, and now thousands are dead because of that choice. Yuji likely would have simply killed himself there if he didn't have people who still relied on him. The real-life psychological term that best describes what Yuji is going through is extreme remorse, a feeling of extreme guilt and anguish for an irreversible act that you have done. Yuji feels both guilt for being the person out of all these innocent people to survive, and he feels guilty simply for the deaths that his body caused. Although I do feel that a portion of the blame for the deaths of so many people still lies on Yuji, I'd still say that Yuji is experiencing false guilt, because at the end of the day, it was Sukuna who killed all those people. Yuji eventually joins back up with Nanami and is about to fight Mahito when Nanami is killed right in front of him. Yeah. So that's not very great. Nanami was a strong mentor figure in Yuji's life, especially now considering that he's lost his grandfather. Nanami was arguably a better mentor than Gojo. Honestly, I don't even feel like that's an argument. But regardless, losing someone like this in your life is very likely to give you PTSD, as well as common symptoms like flashbacks, hyper-alertness, and changes in behavior. After this though, my absolute GOAT, Aoi Todo, pulls up to help Yuji lock in and defeat Mahito. They fight well for a while until Nobara gets her face destroyed and is presumed to be dead. This pulls Yuji out of the flow state, but will also work as motivation for him to destroy Mahito in a little bit. We aren't really told too much about the friends that Yuji had before he went to Jujutsu High, but we are left to infer that the ones he met at Jujutsu High are some of his first true friends. They worked as both a way for him to move on from the death of his only real father figure, and for him to become a stronger, better version of himself. Friends are just all around great for mental health, decreasing the likelihood of depression and anxiety, and also releasing endorphins that calm down your body and bring lots of other health benefits with them. The reason why I bring this up, as sad as it is because this is the moment that Yuji loses all of that. The person that he grew connected to, learned with, fought with, and made memories with, in his eyes at least, is dead. This understandably takes Yuji out of the fight temporarily as my GOAT fights on. Todo eventually has to cut off his own arm, and Yuji gets his get back on Mahito. Soon after though, Kinjaku pulls up and absorbs Mahito, announcing the Culling Games and kicking off the events of Season 3. All in all, Yuji's been through a lot, particularly during the events of the Shibuya Incident. Being a fictional character though, he handles them a lot better than any regular person would. He's not invulnerable though. The events of this night leave a deep, permanent scar on him, reminding himself of his goal to help people and the importance of friendship. Thanks for watching, hope you learned something, and if you don't mind, please drop a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.